From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!, another massive leak from WikiLeaks. The whistleblowing group has begun releasing more than 250,000 classified U.S. diplomatic cables. The revelations are sending shockwaves around the world. Among the findings, Arab leaders are urging the U.S. to attack Iran. Washington and Yemen agreed to cover up the use of U.S. warplanes to bomb Yemen, and how the U.S. is using its embassies around the world as part of a global spy network, asking diplomats to gather intelligence. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The United States is facing a diplomatic crisis as the whistleblowing website WikiLeaks has begun releasing over 250,000 secret diplomatic cables. The cables have already proved embarrassing to numerous world leaders. They show the Saudi King Abdullah has repeatedly urged the United States to attack Iran. Yemen's president has helped to cover up U.S. airstrikes inside Yemen. Numerous leaked memos on Afghanistan confirm reports of widespread corruption inside the Karzai government. One cable from the United Arab Emirates shows Karzai's brother once entered the UAE with $52 million in cash. Other leaked cables reveal a secret U.S. plan to spy on UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and top UN officials. Also of note is a memo from the U.S. Embassy in Honduras from 2008 that clearly states the military coup that ousted Manuel Zelaya was, quote, illegal and unconstitutional. We'll have more on the leaked memos after headlines. In Haiti, Sunday's presidential election was marred by widespread reports of voting fraud and chaos. 12 of Haiti's 19 presidential candidates have called for peaceful protests against what they describe as massive fraud. The candidates accused Haitian President René Préval of trying to steal the election and install his chosen candidate, Jude Celestin. The election was Haiti's first since January's devastating earthquake and the recent cholera outbreak. Anne-Marie Josette Bijou is among the presidential candidates calling for a new election.
La présidence qui réunit matin dans le local Caribé nous déclarer devant peuple haïtien.
We, the candidates to the presidency of the Republic of Haiti, before the Haitian people and the International Committee, want to denounce all of the fraud that has been going on all over the country.
Qui fait dans tout pays et dans tout centre vote. Nous avons un système de contrôle qui permet.
We have a system in which we have detected fraud. We suggest suspension of the electoral process.
Nous demandons annulation élection. C'est pour ça.
In Iran, one nuclear scientist has been killed and another seriously wounded in separate bomb attacks in Tehran. Assailants on motorcycles reportedly attached bombs to the cars of the scientists as they were driving to work. Majid Shahriari is at least the third Iranian nuclear scientist to die under suspicious circumstances in recent years. Iranian state TV blamed Israel for the attack. Tension remains high on the Korean peninsula as thousands of U.S. troops take part in a massive military exercise with South Korea. The nuclear-powered USS George Washington aircraft carrier with its 75 aircraft and 6,000 sailors is taking center stage in the overt show of force. The exercises come just days after North Korea fired a barrage of missiles at South Korea's Yeonpyeong Island, killing 4 and wounding dozens. Meanwhile, China has called for a meeting of the 6 nations involved in the stalled talks aimed at ridding North Korea of its nuclear weapons. In Afghanistan, NATO forces say a gunman in an Afghan police uniform has killed 6 service members. The shooter reportedly turned his weapon on NATO troops during a training mission earlier today. It's unclear whether the shooter was a police officer or someone who'd infiltrated the training exercise. Thousands of delegates, scientists, and activists are gathering in Cancun, Mexico for the start of a 2-week United Nations climate change conference. A new scientific report being issued today reveals up to 1 billion people could lose their homes in the next 90 years due to climate change. The report by the Tyndall Center for Climate Change also predicts up to 3 billion people could lose access to clean water supplies. On Saturday, activists with Greenpeace launched a hot air balloon over the ruins of the ancient Mayan city of Chichen Itza. The balloon carried the message, "Rescue the climate." This is Greenpeace energy campaigner Joam Tlalcochi.
Greenpeace is here today at Chichen Itza, Mexico, to remind delegates meeting for the UN climate talks of a very important lesson. Even the most advanced civilizations collapse. If we do nothing, climate change will have devastating consequences for humanity. But it's not too late. Simply by making the right choices, governments can and must set us on a path to a safe future by making climate change history.
Mexico's ambassador on climate change, Luis Alfonso de Alba, spoke in Cancun Saturday.
First of all, Mexico wants to contribute with its own efforts to reduce emissions and to pay attention to the most vulnerable places in the country, but also to be aware that, quote, anything we'll do will not be good enough if other countries don't pull their weight or do what they are supposed to do. The problem is global. There is only one atmosphere, and what one or even a few countries do will not be enough. We need the international community to be committed.
Democracy Now! Will be broadcasting from the climate change talks in Cancun throughout next week. In related news, a coalition of environmentalists have filed a groundbreaking lawsuit in Ecuador against the oil giant BP for violating Ecuador's constitution, which recognizes the rights of nature across the globe. Plaintiffs include Nimo Bassi, the president of Friends of the Earth International, and the Indian scientist Vandana Shiva.
This morning, we filed in the Constitutional Court of Ecuador this lawsuit defending the rights of nature, in particular the right of the Gulf of Mexico and the sea, which has been violated by the BP oil spill. We see this as a test case of the rights of nature enshrined in the Constitution of Ecuador, which is why it's about universal jurisdiction beyond the boundaries of Ecuador, because nature has rights everywhere.
A 19-year-old Somali-born man is being arraigned in court today in Portland, Oregon, on charges he plotted to set off a large bomb at the city's annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Mohammed Osman Mohammed was arrested Friday after a long-time FBI sting operation. Undercover FBI agents orchestrated much of the bomb plot, supplying Mohammed with money, providing materials to construct the fake bomb, and blocking Mohammed from leaving the Portland area to take a job in Alaska. Portland police officials said the general public was never at risk.
You know, there was no real threat to the public last night, no safety concerns whatsoever. The device was fake. It looked real. It was meant to be, so the suspect believed that it was a real device. In his mind, he detonated a device last night. He blew up an explosive in downtown Portland. That was never going to happen.
2 days after the bomb plot was uncovered, an arsonist set a fire at the Salman Al-Farisi Islamic Center in Corvallis, Oregon, where Mohammed Osman Mohammed had once prayed. No one was hurt, but part of the center's office was burned. Officials believe it was arson.
Fire is still under investigation. We've concluded our scene investigation and collected some evidence. The fire does appear to be incendiary and intentionally set.
A jury in Texas has found former Republican House Majority Leader Tom DeLay guilty of money laundering and conspiracy for funneling $190,000 in campaign donations to Republican candidates to the Texas legislature in the 2002 elections. DeLay faces 5 to 99 years in prison for the money laundering conviction and 2 to 20 years for a conspiracy count as well, plus fines. Rosemary Lemberg is Travis County District Attorney.
It was clear to the jurors that he was guilty of both.
Were you worried about an appeal?
Criminalized politics, that this is a political vendetta to criminalize politics in response?
They have said that from the beginning, and we have not, of course, criminalized any politics. This was about holding public officials accountable, that no one is above the law.
In technology news, the federal government has shut down more than 70 websites, including several search engine sites that focus on files distributed through a technology pioneered by BitTorrent. The websites were shut down by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, part of the Department of Homeland Security. In addition, ICE shut down several music blogs and sites that sell pirated products, including scarves and golfing gear. European Union nations have signed off on a proposed $113 billion emergency loan for Ireland. The bailout was approved a day after an estimated 100,000 people took to the streets of Dublin Saturday to oppose the plan to bail out Ireland's banking sector. Irish trade unions have announced plans to launch a campaign of civil disobedience in the coming weeks.
We don't want to pay for private business, private industry, and corrupt government, and the people are going to pay. And we're not happy. We don't want the IMF in here. The IMF created the situation, and they're in for money, and they don't care about the future. They don't care about Ireland.
Meanwhile, in Britain, tens of thousands of students took to the streets last week to protest planned budget cuts.
We must say that the damage done by thousands of young kids doesn't anywhere come close to the damage which is being done by the Condem government in this country. The Condem government in this country is decimating higher education, is decimating the welfare state, and is imposing an austerity agenda. They have no mandate to cut, and the broken future of generations to come is in no way compared to a few broken windows.
And in Egypt, parliamentary elections were held Sunday. Egypt's opposition parties have accused the ruling party of manipulating the election results to ensure a sweeping victory. According to Human Rights Watch, there were reports of numerous irregularities, including arrests and harassment of journalists and denial of access for opposition candidate representatives to at least 30 polling stations. And one correction on the headlines. In the WikiLeaks leak, among the cables was the vice president of Afghanistan, not the brother of Hamid Karzai, but the president Massoud was the one who brought in the $52 million to UAE. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.